Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is the Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story, Season 2, Episode 1, and the name of this episode is The Man Who Would Be Vogue. I am so glad that they're actually, doing this series, and that they made the subject about Gianni Versace. So definitely, Ryan Murphy, you're a genius, because we saw from the last season of American Crime Story where they did the People versus OJ, and now it's about, Gianni Versace, because a lot of people don't know this, but, the Gianni Versace situation, as we've seen in this first episode, it was a crazy circus that was going on at that crime scene, and it was just as much of a crazy crime as the O.J. Simpson trial, but it didn't get a lot of media coverage, at the same magnitude as the O.J. case, but yet this case was just as crazy, and mainly it had to do with the fact that Gianni Versace was a fashion designer and he was openly gay, so it really didn't get a lot of it did get some mainstream attention because he is a public figure and people know of him, but, after a while the case kind of dwindled a little bit, where they weren't talking about it a lot. But at the time of his death, I was 14 years old, and I definitely remember they definitely did a lot of coverage on E, because when I was in my teens, I was obsessed with E. E True Hollywood Stories, Mysteries and Scandals, Talk Soup. I was like so into E, and E did a lot of coverage on Gianni Versace. And I remember when I first saw it on the news, and I saw his blood on the steps. It literally stopped me dead in my tracks, because it was just like, wow, this man was literally shot dead in front of his house. Just a guy going out on a regular errand, just enjoying the day, and when he comes home, somebody comes out of nowhere and just shoots him. And we actually also in this episode, we also get a glimpse into the mind of a serial killer, which is Andrew Cunanan. So let me begin where it initially starts off. It starts off on the day that Gianni Versace was killed, and it's July 15th, 1997. I was 14 at the time. We see that he has a house in, Miami Beach, Florida, and oh my God, that house inside is beautiful. And I think they were actually shooting at the actual house. Man, this man had impeccable taste in art and beauty, and it pretty much represented who Gianni Versace was as an individual, because that place looked like a palace, and it looked like something out of a museum. Like, it was just so beautifully decorated. I mean, it was enough to literally bring you to tears, because it was just so beautiful. The pool, the halls, the villa. I mean, it was gorgeous. And we really see Gianni Versace at the height. He's now about to make a deal with the New York Stock Exchange, so he's really about to, reach a higher plateau in his career. And by then, he's world renowned in the fashion world. This man is walking around like a king in his palace. And the guy who they got to play Versace, Edgar Ramirez, he looked so much like the actual Gianni Versace that it was scary. But he really does look the part, and he definitely is exuding, Versace's, aura, and his, the it factor. He really is embodying that. It is like literally we're seeing Gianni Versace all over again. And we see that he goes, we see his, how his day started. He ends up having breakfast. We see that he has a great relationship with all of his, with all of the workers and servants that he has in his home. We see that his boyfriend, Antonio, was playing tennis with I think the bodyguard or whatever. And, while this is going on, we see that Andrew Cunanan is sitting on the beach. And we see inside his bag, he has a book with He actually has a book, pretty much this Vogue book, and then he also has a gun. And then the next thing you know, we see this fool gets into, because he's on the beach. He gets into the water, and then this crazy son of a bitch just starts screaming out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow, this man is seriously demented. So then, we see that, Gianni Versace goes out to run his errands, and he ends up stopping at this like newsstand, and he ends up getting some books. And the funny thing about it is that the front, the one of the magazines he bought, on the cover was Princess Diana. And for those who know, Princess Diana literally died a month later after Gianni Versace. He died on July 15th, 1997. She died August 31st, 1997. And I think he was, friends with her, and, she's also, wore his designs, which, definitely also made him more world-renowned as well, because he definitely did some designs for Princess Diana. So it's crazy that their deaths were literally like a month and a week or so apart. And here it is, he bought, so I caught that he had bought, a magazine, and Princess Diana was on the cover. That was crazy. Then we see that Andrew Cunanan, who's about to make the kill, goes into the bathroom and literally starts puking, because the adrenaline is so much, and the fear is so much, because he knows what he's about to do. And then the next thing we actually see the actual shooting. Gianni Versace, after running his errands, is, putting the keys into his door, and we see Andrew Cunanan is like literally across the street, and like just like parking. The next thing he literally runs right up to Versace and just shoots him twice, and one of the bullets actually kills a bird, and pretty much that's what happened. And then Gianni Versace was he was literally pronounced dead, minutes later. I think the time was at 9:21. Yeah, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. So we saw that go on. And the crazy thing is that this crime scene was insane. You had this one asshole who took a picture of Gianni Versace's body going into the ambulance, and then his fool is, because it drew a lot of crowd, because this is Miami Beach, this is where a lot of rich, prominent individuals live, and a crime like this just doesn't happen every day. It literally took the world, it literally shocked the country. And, this son of a bitch takes a picture of Gianni Versace going into the ambulance. Then he starts going to the crowd saying that I had the only picture of Gianni Versace. I start the bidding at $30,000. Then we had this, they showed this one woman who was obviously a model. She's literally walking around strutting like she's on a runway at the crime scene. And then we also had this little girl, and her parents actually ran into Versace earlier that day. When he came out the house, they asked for an autograph, and he told them not today, and he walked off. Now their daughter literally walks up with a clipping, of Versace from a magazine, and rubs the clipping in the blood. I'm like, these people are insane, and people are just, it's like they're fans, and then they're just people who are just insanely obsessed. I mean, what kind of sense would it make to put his blood, to get his blood from the crime scene and make a memorabilia about that? Like, how insane is that? But it goes to show you this is the kind of society we live in, and it's crazy because, we literally see that this crime scene was insane. So as I said, this case was just as crazy and was just as mind-blowing as the OJ case. But because Versace was a gay man, it didn't get the same amount of media coverage. But yet, this story was crazy. I mean, especially, you know, in this episode, we really get a glimpse into who Andrew Cunanan really was and how he thought. And we actually see, you know, in this episode, like, you know, because they actually go back, you know, in time. You know, they kind of rewind back, you know, to when he met Versace, and he had met Versace in October 1990 in San Francisco. And I'm going to get to that, but before he talks about the time he met Versace, we see that he goes into, we see that Andrew's at home or whatever, where he's staying. He goes into the room where this girl and this man is sleeping, who they're obviously a couple. He literally starts touching himself, you know, looking at the guy, and then all of a sudden, the girl wakes up, and then he kind of jumps in beds with them, and then he talks about how he met Versace, and we learn very quickly that Andrew Cunanan is a stunt queen. She's the type of bitch that pulls stunts for a living, because we see how she met Versace, but she's talking like as if like Versace was like enamored about him, like he was the belle of the ball, and Versace was just captivated by him, when in all actuality that's not how it happened. Because October 1990, he's at a club in San Francisco, and it's obviously a gay club. You know, cheeks are out and the boys are getting their life. He actually has a friend who works in the club who actually helps him to get into VIP, and then he approaches Versace, and he's like talking to Versace, but Versace is talking to the people that are sitting with him, you know, because he's up in VIP, you know, getting his life, and he's talking to his friends. He's literally paying Andrew dust. But then Andrew literally is persistent, and he just starts talking about, you know, I read about you in Vogue, and I knew about your upbringing, I knew about your mother and your family and what drove you, and then he starts saying that, you know, I'm of Italian descent as well, and literally within time, Gianni just ate it up and was like really captivated by him. Because one thing we can see about Andrew, he's very intelligent, he's very astute, he's well spoken. He comes off as a man of great prestige, you know, and he was very intelligent, because I think he was actually a student at, I think, University of California, Berkeley. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But yeah, you don't get into an Ivy school like that unless you do have a high GPA. So Andrew Cunanan was actually a very intelligent guy, but he was also disturbed, and you know what they say, you know, intelligence and insanity kind of like exist in parallels, and if they cross each other, it can be bad. So we see that he talks his way into, you know, into like getting Versace's attention, and eventually he sits next to Versace, and then he kind of flips on the guy who got him in, was like, oh, you can get me whatever he's having, and kind of give him like I'm that bitch. But dude, if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't have been able to get in there. So it just kind of shows the kind of person he is. He has a massive ego. He's completely full of himself, and he likes to pull stunts to make people think what he wants them to think, or believe what he wants them to believe, because he's telling this couple about Versace, and then he's saying, well, you know, I for one really don't care too much for the designs. They're too colorful, you know, but I was just so pleased that he was, you know, into me, and that he liked me, and you know, he even invited me to the opera, and I'm definitely gonna go, you know, I mean, this is Gianni Versace. So of course I said yes. You know, I mean, I wouldn't turn him down like that. Like, literally making himself sound bigger and grander than he really is. Because then we actually see he's at I think like at school, you know, with this guy who he's dating, and this is a guy who he literally grew up with. he starts talking about, yes, he starts talking about, he literally tells the guy about him meeting Gianni Versace and that Versace wants him and all of this, and he starts, putting up these airs that, I let him know about my Jewish background. He's like, what the fuck you mean, bro? You're not Jewish. You're Catholic. We both are Catholic. We grew up together. I know what the truth is. So why are you why are you doing this? And the thing that really stuck me out about this guy, this guy obviously is not the Adonis type, but he's a good dude, and he really is in love with Andrew. And he's like, I really want to love you, and I really want to be with you, but it's like every time I try to get to know you, you turn into somebody else. That part right there really just grabbed me, like, yo, he's really letting you know that you're a fake bitch. But then he goes again to say, well, I have no reason to lie, and I'm telling you the truth. Gianni Versace has invited me to the opera. And he's like, well, I'm happy for you. And he's like, you should be. And I'm looking like, you fake ass bitch. Wow. Because it's like he's intelligent, but he uses it for sinister deeds. Like, dude. Like, he really made it seem as if, like, he's that bitch, and Gianni Versace is all into him, when that's definitely not the case. Because we actually see that this fool is so out of, this fool is literally at the bottom of the barrel, because we literally see, because he lives with this couple, and him and the girl are like the Judies. We see, they actually show his closet. He only got like one suit of clothes. That's it. But then her boyfriend has this array of like, clothes and suits. This fool just helps himself and dresses in her boyfriend's clothes. And she kind of like clocked him like, you could ask. But that's his mindset. Like, he thinks he's that bitch and everybody else is not on his level. And so he has that high level of arrogance. And he talks about him going to see the opera with Gianni Versace, and he's getting ready, and they both, and she pretty much is like a good girlfriend with him, so they kind of kiki with each other, and she helps him get ready. Then we see that he goes to the opera. Literally, he just walks in. He takes somebody else's binoculars. He literally just walked himself in there. He actually had a box seat, but we see Gianni Versace actually is because it's at the opera, and one of the opera singer, he's actually designed just for her, and we really see the artistry and the beauty of Gianni Versace in this moment, where he says, it's not about me, it's about you. You make these clothes come to life. So you need to show how this dress makes you feel. And that is what makes the clothes work. The clothes in and of itself is not it. It's how the woman feels and how the woman wears the garment is what sells the garment. So it's about attitude and about personality. And he was connecting with this opera singer and we really saw that, wow, this is his genius. This is how, because all of these, top renowned supermodels that work with him, like Sidney Crawford, Naomi Campbell, Claudia Schiffer, they had nothing but great things to say about him. Because he did that with his models as well. Like, he said, wear the clothes, but show you. Show what this dress is, how it's making your personality shine. So, we see that the opera's going on, but Gianni Versace's backstage, and so I think, he did invite him to the opera, more like as a friend or whatever, but then next thing we see that they're on stage. This is after the show's over. Andrew and Gianni Versace are alone, and they have this conversation, and we can kind of see that there's some flirtation going on and all of that, so that was like rather interesting. So we kind of see that, yeah, they did meet up, but the question is, how far did it go? Because we saw that, Andrew, again, is telling these lies, making himself sound grander than he really is, that he's an aspiring author and all of this, and, putting up all of these airs, but Gianni is actually intrigued with him in some way. So we kind of see that there's some flirtation going on. He kind of like, flexes eyebrows and everything. So I'm thinking, okay, what happened post that? So that was going on. Then we actually see later on Antonio, who was, Gianni Versace's boyfriend of 15 years. They got together in 1982, and they've been together ever since. He was the one who, he literally found, he literally came out, because he was actually in the house when Gianni got shot. So no one saw him getting shot, but as soon as they heard it, Gianni Versace, Antonio and the bodyguard, they come out. The bodyguard literally sees Andrew running away, and he begins to chase him. He chased him like through this alley, and then once he got close up on Andrew pulled a gun out on him, and the guy just threw his hands up, and Andrew ends up running off. And the thing about it, that shit was crazy, because that shows you right there how they had an eyewitness account of who shot him. And then we see that Antonio literally clutches down and he holds Gianni. He's telling everybody to call an ambulance, but people are just like there, spectating. And here it is. Antonio is just reeked with emotion and shock, and because this was the love of his life. And now this man is like literally bleeding to death in front of his house. But he actually died in the hospital, because eventually an ambulance comes and they do rush him to the hospital, but he dies, I think 11 minutes later, I think. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But so yeah, we see that, Antonio is just literally in shock and is just emotionally crushed that the love of his life got killed. And we also see, and so therefore, so pretty much you have all that going on. So therefore, so then afterwards we see that the police want to question Antonio about what happened. And I would have to say, this is 1997. This is a time where homophobia was still rampant in the United States, far more so then than it is now. We've definitely made some progress, but then, it was still taboo to be openly gay. And what ends up happening is that the detective starts asking Antonio questions, about their life and about, their friends. Did you ever bring, it's been known that, that you bring friends to the house, and he's like, yeah, I'll bring friends to the house, and he's just in shock, and he doesn't realize that, okay, you're kind of feeding into the BS, because I would say the line of questioning was very disrespectful. But they're supposedly trying to get to the bottom of it, but yet what they're doing is kind of humiliating him in a way because of the fact that he was a gay man. And they start asking, like, so you brought friends to the house? Well, how do we know that these friends didn't kill him? Has he ever had sex with these friends? And Antonio's like, yes, sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. And sometimes I did, and sometimes we both did. At the end of the day, it is what it is. But then the detective starts taking a lot of questioning, trying to say that, how do we know you weren't behind this? Maybe because you were jealous, or better yet, maybe because you were jealous of him. And he was like, are you fucking serious? I just lost the love of my life, and I was with this man for 15 years. This is my partner. This was like the love of my life. And, at that time, gay marriage wasn't legal, so it was a totally different world back in 1997 as it is right now in 2018. So therefore he starts asking like questions like, well, did he ever pay for sex? He's like, sometimes, but then there was times that guys would have sex with him anyway because they were just enamored by who he was. And he said that, look, this is something that we've done, it's nothing new, but he's not even realizing that, you're kind of feeding into the bullshit, because this guy obviously is making a mockery of Gianni's lifestyle. And he's trying to pin it that, how we know if it wasn't one of your friends that is the reason why he's dead, that you invited somebody over here and now, because, they don't know anything about Andrew Cunanan yet. And so he's just kind of going on speculation, and he's literally interrogating Antonio, and Antonio's literally pretty much is like spewing their personal business. So then we see Donatella arriving with her husband. She gets off the plane, and she literally comes to the house, and she literally sees the media circus. And you can definitely see she is reeked with grief and devastation, because her and her brother were very close. And they even showed when he was dressed in the opera singer, he told her about, his mother was a fashion designer, and that the first dress that he made was for his sister Donatella, and she has been his muse and his inspiration ever since. So he loved his sister, and she loved him. They were thick as thieves. And now she literally has to deal with the fact that her brother's dead, the brother that she loved and cherished so much, but then, he has this big, multi-million-dollar business that needs to be protected, as far as his image, and as far as, the deals that he had on the table, prior to his death. So she comes in there, and she also finds out that he was talking to the police, because, all of a sudden when Antonio sees her, he stands up and he reaches out, and she just completely pays his ass dust. But she sees that he's in there talking to the police. And then she's like, what the hell did you tell them? He's like, look, I just told them, what they needed, what they want, I just answered their questions, I wasn't going to lie. And she was like, you know what? You had one job. Your only job was to take care of Gianni, and you couldn't even do that. Now, I think I got what she meant by that. She knew that he loved Gianni, and he's been in his life for 15 years. So of course, him and Donatella, definitely had a kinship, because that was the man that Gianni loved. So of course they knew each other, because he reached out for her. So obviously they did have a kinship. But I think what she meant by, like, you only have one job, and to take care of him, and you couldn't even do that. I think what she meant by that was that he started to tell Gianni's personal business to the police, something that Gianni wouldn't do, because Gianni was very private when it came to his personal life. And here it is, and I think Antonio at this moment is just stricken with grief and shock, that he's just telling them, he's just answering their questions, not realizing that they can kind of use this against you, and they can use this to kind of defame, Versace's image. So we see that Donatella is a fierce bitch, and she literally came in there and was doing damage control. She literally told him, don't you say another damn word to the press unless you run it by me first. And then we see that she's going to have this board meeting with the creative board of Versace's brand. And, we see that Antonio's still wearing the bloody tennis outfit he had on. She pretty much shut the door on his ass. So she's like, you ain't, like, because due to the fact that they're not married, he really has no entitlement to Versace's brand. So literally everything went to his family. But I have to say, in this scene, it really made me really see Donatella in a real light, because it showed that not only did she love her brother, but then she is a powerful, strong woman. Because she went in there and said that, yes, this is not a time to be having a business meeting, but it's a meeting we're going to have because Gianni is still alive. He's alive with this company. We got this deal with the New York Stock Exchange that was on the table, you know, before his death. We're going to do this deal, and we're going to keep his legacy alive. That man killed my brother, but he's not going to kill him twice. And I was like, Donatella, you better come through, boss. I was so here for that. And then we see that Andrew Cunanan is so insane. We have moments where he's laughing that he did, you know, at what he did. And then we see a scene where he's like in yellow and he's in this, I think, like this hotel, and everyone is like literally in shock. Just how I was at the age of 14 when I saw it on the news about Gianni Versace being murdered, and you see the blood on the steps. He's literally, this woman is like literally like, oh my God. And then he starts doing, and I was like, oh my God, you cold-hearted piece of shit. Like, he literally had no emotions. At moments he was laughing and, you know, feeling justified that he did some great thing. And then they also show how he eluded the police. Because, you know, people would see him at places, but then there was this one point where he had like this outfit on. It was like a red shirt and a baseball cap. They ended up chasing this guy down, but it wasn't him. And it was the same exact outfit that he had on. But then he got about it and changed into the yellow outfit. So he literally existed like with 9 days of this whole crime, and he just kept eluding the police. You know, until, you know, and I'm gonna get to that once it gets to that, and it shows like when they finally caught up with Andrew and how that went down. But you know, we actually see also that, you know, they also get wind of who Andrew Cunanan is, and they come to find out that he's wanted by the FBI. Now the question is, how the fuck is this guy wanted by the FBI and no one got track of it? And a lot of it had to do with the fact that he was gay, you know, and the crimes, you know, the victims of his previous crimes were gay men, because he actually killed 4 people before he killed Versace. Versace was his 5th victim. So how is it that this guy was able to commit these crimes in these other states, but because the men were gay men, or known to be gay men, there was really no real strategic follow-up, and he just eluded the police? So we actually see that they now know who Andrew Cunanan is, but they can't find him, because every time they get a lead, he ends up, you know, getting away. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be reviewing this. I really did enjoy this. And I have to say shout out to Ryan Murphy. He did a phenomenal job with this, because I literally was just completely locked in. And it actually came on the 17th, which is my birthday, and I was having me some fun. So I definitely wanted to review this, but I definitely wanted to wait, because I also have other shows that I review on Wednesday as well. So I definitely will be reviewing this, but it will be later on in the week. But definitely look for it, because I will be reviewing this series. So until the next episode, everybody, take care.